Hello, my name's Nick Parry and welcome to my talk on the M16 Stahlhelm, or my M16 Stahlhelm. I've been collecting militaria for many years now, and my M16 Stahlhelm, M16 Brodie and M16 or M15 maybe, Adrian helmet are the pride and joy of my collection, certainly the First World War bit. I'll be talking about general headgear, certainly for the Germans, from the beginning of the war through to the modern day. Okay, so without further ado, let me let you see my M16 Stahlhelm. There it is, the M16 Stahlhelm. This particular one was picked up in 1916 on the Somme by Captain Francis Buckley of the 7th Northumberland Fusiliers, and he was my great-great-uncle by marriage. And there is his Brodie helmet, and I have done a talk about the Brodie helmet before, so there we go, the Northumberland Fusiliers, and this one he brought back from the battlefield. So it's an M16, it's a size 62 with NJ inside, which I'll show you in a minute. I'm not 100% sure what make NJ is, but I do know the 62 size was the smaller of the sizes, and you can tell that anyway by not even knowing the size, but the protruding bit there that was actually a vent and also held on the armour was actually stepped. You can see that one stepped, whereas if we have a look at a slightly bigger one here, not a step on it, it's just straight out. So interestingly, the soldiers used to fill this vent with earth because it got quite cold during the winter, and this one, believe it or not, has got earth in it. I don't know if that is earth from the Somme, but I'd like to think it is. The small hole to the right is actually not a vent, and that would have been had a clip in it, which you can see at the back there. Okay, there we go, which would have kept the inner part of the padding in place. Okay, so yeah, before I go start picking up my M16 Stahlhelm, we can look at what did the Germans used to wear. Well, they wore the Pickelhaube, which we can have a look there. Okay, and these are my only two copies. That is a copy of a Pickelhaube, and that is also a copy. Okay, this was the World War I soft cap, the Feldcap or the Feldmützen. And that was worn by the Germans. You can see the German and the Prussian cockade on the top there, the badges. They did also used to wear like a sort of metal skull cap underneath it. It wasn't that effective because it would fall off, hence they went for the M16. The French used a keepy too, and everyone used some sort of, you know, protection above and beyond the soft cap. The British, you can just see the 1905 pattern British one there. That also obviously afforded no protection whatsoever. Okay, so the Pickelhaube, pickle being point and haube being bonnet, and that's the German one. Has been in the German army. They've been using it since about 1850. Was covered the black bit you can see is not steel, but stretched cowhide, so didn't really afford a lot of protection. Certainly afforded more protection the Feldmützen or the field cap of the British there. Okay, so coming round back to the Stahlhelm. This particular Stahlhelm, or these Stahlhelms, were designed by Frederick Schrood and a Dr. August Beer of the Hanover Institute in 1915, and was based apparently on a 15th century sallet helmet used by the people who occupied Germany in the 14 and 1500s. It wasn't properly deployed until about 1916, and as I said, was commonly referred to as the M16. Slightly more expensive in its production, and as you can see, covers slightly more of the head. The British Brodie, I won't spend any time on that or much time on it, was made of Hadfield steel, which was a manganese steel alloy, and did afford quite a lot of protection, but not quite as hard as the M16. This one was made of a silicon and a nickel steel alloy, and was slightly tougher and slightly better overall than the Hadfield steel one, but was actually a little bit more expensive too. Interestingly, when these were brought into play at the beginning of 1916, were used Verdun for the stormtroopers as a kind of practice run, but not properly brought in until 1916. Little bit more, as we said, a little bit more expensive, but also did afford a lot of protection. They saw a 70% decline in the fatality rate, or the head injury rates and fatality rate, the troops, which did actually cause some problems with the casualty clearing stations, which of course ran into problems because those that would have normally died and just been buried were actually surviving, but still being injured. So they didn't quite anticipate how many it would save, but upwards of 70%. And that included the Adrian helmets, which is just there, which was actually, funnily enough, the first one. And of course the other one over there, I just showed you my Northumberland Fusiliers helmet. Okay, it's such an iconic look, isn't it? In fact, it was so iconic, and you can see the M40 there. Okay, that's the Second World War one. Okay, it was so iconic that when the German military decided to redesign it, Hitler was having none of it in 1935, and they kept the shape, albeit a slightly more shallow look, which we saw on the M40. But it is an iconic helmet. In fact, it was so good that the Americans wanted to adopt it after the Second World War, but it smacked too much of German imperialism or Nazi Germany, so it wasn't acceptable. But if you look at Allied troops, and certainly the American troops now, they are wearing the German style helmet, and funnily enough, it's actually called the Fritz. So there we go. So what have we got? This is my M16 Stahlhelm, so I do have provenance, so I do know that it came from the battlefield. It's black. Apparently some of them were painted field grey or feld grey, but this one looks like it has always been black. Interestingly, so has the Northumberland Fusiliers over there. That one was black. I don't know if that was just pertinent to the Northumberland Fusiliers, but anyway, coming back to my helmet. So we talked about the lugs and the stepped lugs, so that just shows you the difference. And if we just have a look there, okay, there we go. So I'm just going to move that slightly out of the way so you can actually see the NJ62. That shows the size. The actual chin strap they used, if you can see that, and I don't know if I can get that. Let me just have a quick look on the side of the there we go, you can see that. That's the side of the Pickelhaube, and they adopted the same strap and the same fitting on that one, hence we can see that, and that identifies it as an M16. Okay, so, and again, we like I say, we can see the NJ62, so that gives us a bit of an idea what it is. Okay, so now as you can see from my one, it didn't have the inner padding. So there we go, but there is another example of and we think this is an M17 or an M18, where you can see that there's a hole where the strap with the padding used to be, where the chin strap used to be, sorry, but now it was attached to the actual padding itself. This one's actually got a name in it too. So this is an M17 or an M18. I don't know a lot about this one on the left. Okay, so what else? We told you about the mud in them. I'm sure I did. I've done this a few times because I've messed up. So, but anyway, suffice to say, they did put mud in them to make them not quite so cold in the winter. Okay, so block it. The armour that they had on the front of the helmet, and you could see on this bit. Okay, they would actually have some armour which would give extra protection. It was very heavy and a bit unwieldy. It was called Sternpanzer, and they used a tremendous amount of armour, sometimes even covering the face, and certainly that was useful for the snipers. Okay, so there we go. What else have we got? We said it was field grey. They also did use some camouflage, and you can see quite a few examples in the camouflage versions. Okay, quite an unwieldy helmet, and if you can imagine just here, okay, there's your ear, and you might have your gun butt quite close to it, so difficult to actually fire. the Germans found it also echoed and reverberated, so they sometimes had difficulty. So interesting, I did bring this up on my talk on the Brodie. The Brodie helmet, the British Tommy, would actually have it at an angle, which made it easier to actually fire. The Germans found this quite difficult, so it wasn't ideal, and hence when they did redevelop it, then they made it slightly more shallow. Okay, so there were some variants. A lot of countries wore them. The Germans wore the First World War ones way into the Second World War, and you can see Goering and a number of other people wearing them in the 1930s and 1940s. They were very, very popular. Okay. Anything else? There isn't much else that I can tell you about my helmet. Unfortunately, it's got the missing piece here, which you will see is actually on this one, so that's probably a better side to see. And we're looking, but there we go. So anyway, there you have it. I haven't got much more to say about my Stahlhelm. Please do make some comments and do tell me if I've got anything wrong. I'll just have a quick show you a quick look at my attic museum. Okay, so most of this on the right hand side is First World War, and we've got First World War here, and then it starts going into the Second World War, and you can see the helmets in the back there, and the American M40 and the Soviet helmets, and the British Mark III, and a couple of others. So there's Fred. Hi Fred. Okay, and I've got my action men in the corner there, and a few other, and the naval corner is here too. So I do have quite an extensive collection in my attic, and I'm going to slowly go through. So it might be an idea to subscribe anyway and see what I'm going to talk about next. Okay, many thanks, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.